Hey everybody, Garcia here. Today we're going to be looting some gems and smacking some monsters around in dungeons, dice, and danger. This one is a roll and write style game in which one player is going to roll a few dice and everyone's going to use that roll to mark off some rooms in their dungeon that they have traversed. You might enter new rooms, you might hit monsters, you might even collect some loot, like I said. The game comes with 4 different dungeon maps, 2 pads of paper, each one double-sided. Everyone's going to use the same one, and it comes with some pencils for you to mark off these spaces as well. I'm going to be showing you one of them, the sort of simplest one in the overview here, but be aware there's more of them, all right? So here we go. Let's take a look at what comes in here, how it works, and I'll see you back up here for some final thoughts. To set up the game, we're going to give each player the same board, the same dungeon that we're going into. Here we're using this Annoyed Animals one, which is the starting one, I think, that's recommended. And everybody gets a pencil, though I'll be using a pen for this so you can more easily see what's going on. And then we've got the 5 dice. Pick a start player, you are ready to begin. So the way it works is, whoever the active player is going to roll all of these dice right here. And then they're going to set those somewhere on the table, including this black one here. Every player now simultaneously is going to make 2 pairs from these white dice. So I personally could make a 7 and a 5. I could do the 2 and the 10. I can do whatever I want to there. And everyone is going to use both of those combinations to mark off spaces on their dungeon here, to mark rooms that they have traversed, that they have had access to. The player whose turn it is can also use the black die to substitute one of these white dice. So instead of doing, say, 2 and 10, I could do 2 and 8 if I want to. And again, you won't be physically manipulating these dice since everyone is using them. You don't really want to start moving them around and making pairs. Everyone can do this in their head on their own simultaneously. Once you've done that, then again, you have to mark off rooms on your board. The opening rooms, the starting rooms, are these in green out here. All of these and all of these. Those are always available to you, once each, obviously. So my first turn might be marking the, let's say, the 2 and the, I'll do the 8. Why not, since I can. The 2 and the 8. So I'm going to mark this 2, and I'll just cross that out. And then this 8. I'll do that. And once everyone is done, then the dice pass to the next player. The next player picks them up, they roll these, they set them somewhere, they will have access to the black die. I won't, normally. I'll explain an exception in just a second. And then I'm going to, again, use these to make combinations and mark things off. So, for example, I might, on this one, let's see, I've got here, I could do a 5 and a 7. That might be good. So perhaps I'll do this 5 in the opening room and this 7 in this room. Anything else I want to do outside of the starting rooms has to follow a couple of rules. For one thing, I need to roll, obviously, the combination or have someone rolled it. But I also need to be adjacent to a room I've already crossed into, okay? So, for example, this 4 now is available to me because I've already marked a room next to it. Just like over here, I've marked this 8, so now I can mark this 9 here. And that's what I'm doing, is traversing through all these places, fighting beasties, and gaining gems and various other things. So let's say I want to do, what I want to do. This is not a great roll, actually, for me. But I'm going to go ahead and do the 4 and the 8, let's say, just to explain another thing. If I do the 4, I'm going to mark this one off here. Boop, boop. And then the 8, I look around, I've already crossed off this 8, I don't have an 8 to cross. If I am unable to use a dice combination, I have to take a hit on my life. Cross the top one here that's still uncrossed. Take enough of these, and you actually are eliminated from the game, though that's really rare, it's not likely to happen. Usually what happens is you take a few of these, and then you lose victory points for the topmost uncrossed one at the end of the game. You write that down right here at the end of the game. That's the life loss you took throughout the game. Now let me talk about the specific places out here. Many of these rooms are simply these numbered light spaces. They are nothing. They're simply a way to traverse through the dungeon. Many of the spaces have monsters, such as this one here and the main boss right here in the center. Some of them are going to be gray, like these two, that, and that right there. Some of them have treasure, which are these, and some of them have gems, like these. So let me explain the differences. If you cross out a gem room, such as this one here, you're going to mark 1 gem. So let me just pretend I got a 10 earlier, and I just now got a 2. So if I cross off that 2, I'm going to cross off, I got that gem there, so I cross off 1 space here. That means I have 1 gem. This entire space here is 4 gems, as listed there. So I've got that gem. At the end of the game, I'm going to get 3 points for every gem I have acquired. The rooms that have creatures, you can hit those creatures based on the numbers that they have written at the top of their boxes. So for example, this creature here, I can hit on a 3 or an 11. But I still need to have access to that room, meaning I have to have a room that has been crossed off adjacent to it. Say I came down this way, I did that and got a gem. I got in here, and now if I rolled a 3 or an 11, I can put a single hit on that creature for every 3 and every 11 I use. When I finally eliminate that creature, I do the last hit at the end of that turn. Once everyone has used the dice, I will say, hey, I killed this character. I knocked them out. And I am going to get a reward based on what's listed down here. If I'm the first one to do it, I get 3 gems. Everyone else is going to cross off that bonus. And if they later on do it, they get 1 gem. Also, every time somebody kills a creature, rather the first time somebody kills a creature, everyone else at the end of that round gets a free hit on that same one, even if I haven't accessed it yet. It might be this one over here that I have not made it to. If somebody else kills it, I still get a free hit on it. Now, the gray boxes that are around some of these creatures are going to let you more effectively attack that creature. Let's take a look at this white wolf right here. It says at the top of this box that I can hit him on a 4. But there's also a 5 and an 8 there that are grayed out right now. They're not filled in. If I cross off this 8, and again, don't forget the adjacency rule of making it over there. But if I cross out the 8, then I can fill in this 8. And from now on, I can hit him on a 4, or I can hit him on an 8. Same rule goes for this 5 over here. So you can more effectively attack these creatures. This big guy in the middle, at least on this board, begins with all his numbers crossed out. None of them are filled in, rather. So as you complete these, I fill in the 11, so now I can hit him on an 11. And then maybe I make it, boop, boop, I make it over here. Okay, now I can hit him on a 3 as well, and so on. You're going to be filling in many of his hits here. When somebody finally takes him out, they are going to get 6 gems and 2 life laws, it says. So you need to cross off 2 of these and mark your 6 gems in here. Everybody else, again, gets a single free hit at the end of that turn on that monster. And that's generally the way it works. There's a couple of other special abilities that are going to show up on some of these boards. So let me talk about some of those now. In this one, you have some spaces that show 2 dice. That means you need to have the same values for 2 dice, but the number won't matter. So I could do it with this, for example, and mark that one off. And then there's also these fists inside of a starburst there. Those are going to be very specific combinations that you need. So, for example, this one up here shows a 12, and then that symbol with the 2 dice matching. So the only way to cross this off is to satisfy both of those, obviously with a 6 and a 6. And then you can cross that out. If you do that, you also mark one of these down here. Every time you cross off one of those, you hit every monster on your board for 1. And then whoever gets 5 of these first, if anyone, they get a bonus of 3 gems. People who do it later only get 1. There's also this bonus for connecting these entrances all the way across to any of these entrances. And again, you get a bonus of 3 gems for that. Now, the only thing I haven't talked about, which is common to all of these boards, is the treasure, this part over here. Every time you cross off one of these rooms with treasure, you are going to unlock one of these 3 things. And you can pick whichever one you want to. So the top one here If you mark this one off, you're going to get 1 bonus gem, but the main thing you get is 3 more life points. So the next time you take a hit, because you cannot use a dice combination or because some monster forces you to do it, you can instead mark these spaces. So the next 3 hits can just go here. And then you can go back to taking hits on the main life track. This second one is this torch. That one lets you twice in the game mark anything off that you want. So, for example, in this previous combination, let's say I have rolled, let's say I have, I don't know, something like this. I have that, a 9 and a 4. And I really want to mark off that 9, but I don't have access to it yet. Well, I could use the first torch space to mark this 7. I can just mark anything I want to. And then I could use the 9 to mark this room, and I can use the 4 to mark this room, which now means I can hit this guy on a 4. Look at that, okay? So that's how you can use the torches twice in the game. And then this last one down here gives you 3 more uses of a specific bonus. What is that bonus? Well, at the beginning of the overview, I talked about how when it's your turn and you roll the dice, you can use the black one to replace one of the white ones in your own 2 combinations. But you can also do that on other people's turns if you mark off one of these bonuses down here. So if you really are not coming up with good combos, you can choose to replace the white one with a black one, even if it's not your turn, by spending one of these. Once you've used 3, though, you're done. But if you unlock this treasure, you can do it 3 more times. Once these are spent, then you can start using those. And that's pretty much it. The game's going to keep going until every monster has been killed by someone. And then we are going to figure out our totals. So any gems you got from these, from the monsters, all of that, you're going to get those and multiply them times 3. Your life loss, and again, if it's something like that, then it's the next open one. So it's -6 here. And then you write your total right there. There's also one final little rule here with the main big bad, and that is if you did not kill him, if you're not the one who killed him, you are going to get 3 points for every 3 hits you did on him. So if the game's over, somebody else has killed the big guy and all the monsters are now dead, someone took them all out, right? Then I'm going to get a bonus from him. For every group of 3 completed, I get 3 points for that, i.e., 1 gem. You can just count it as 1 gem. So basically, I completed 2 of them, so I would give myself 2 more there. But completing him, killing him fully, does give you 6. So you really want to go for that. So there you go. That's how that works. Again, that is just one board. There are others here. There's this one with a few different rules, and then the other 2 on the other pad of paper. But understanding the basics here gets you 85% of the way there on pretty much all the other boards as well. So there you go. Let's go ahead and go back up top. Let me tell you what I think of it. All right, that is Dungeons, Dice, and Danger. What a name. Dungeons, Dice, and Danger. Let's talk about it, shall we? So starting at the top with the theme. This theme gets saved a little bit for me by the silliness with which everything is handled. I think the naming conventions for the monster is goofy, it's silly, it's very tongue-in-cheek. If it wasn't that, and this game wasn't sort of winking at the tropes that it is utilizing, I think I would find it particularly boring and samey. It's like, oh my goodness, going into a fantasy dungeon again? In this one, it's not great, but it gets a pass because it is aware that the theme it is utilizing is sort of has been done to death, I guess. And so being silly with it, or, sort of poking fun at the naming conventions and the monsters, that works out for me. The aesthetics here are pretty good. The game has a nice amount of sheets. The 2 pads are well made. They're large enough that you can play on them comfortably. Pencils are fine. Dice are fine. The game does have some lovely artwork, though there is not a lot of it. But what is there, the little details that are in there and the characters, are very well done. The replay value, like I said, 4 dungeons, I think is good. There's enough sheets of paper here to play a good amount of games. You could also laminate these, I suppose, if you want to. But having the 4 different adventures, if you want to call them that, I think is a good call. That's a good amount. If there had been only 2, I don't think that would have felt like enough replayability. I think 4 is great. And of course, they could then, in the future, come out with expansion pads for this, which is a good way to do it. So, no problem there. The game arc. For me, I think the game goes a little bit long. This is one of the longer roll and write style games that I've played. They're usually, at least of the more casual ones, and I would say this is a fairly casual game. But this one does tend to drag out a little bit. I think if it was tightened up by about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, I don't know. I can't put a number on it. I'm just saying it does feel like at some point you start to get a little antsy. Like, are we almost there? You start to get that feeling. So, generally, the flow is all right. The game arc, the sort of turn to turn is okay. It's just a little long. Ease of play. It can be sometimes hard to visualize the rooms you have access to in this game. In fact, the first time I played, I thought to myself, I really wish this game had one of those, or I wish I had, one of those bingo marker things. I want to be able to obliterate the room and make it very clear this room has been accessed. You can visually ignore it and start being aware of the things around it. Because just crossing it off, unless you really sort of scratch out the whole thing, sometimes it's hard to see the rooms you do have access to, which is going to slow down the game, which is going to hurt the game arc. Again, there's some sort of, the turns can start taking a little bit longer. There's also just the general making combinations of dice in your head. There are so many possibilities for that the game arc and the ease of play both take a little bit of a hit from that. If you roll all different numbers on the 4 white dice, that's a lot of combinations. You include the black die in that, and that's a whole lot more combinations. I mean, quite a few. In fact, they have a little chart in the book here where they show you all the possibilities of some random roll they're going with. And that's excluding one of the white dice because it's a duplicate. If they're all different, this would grow quite a bit. So, yes, it's not clunky. I wouldn't say it's clunky. It's just ponderous and a little slow. And then lastly, tactics, luck, and strategy. There's a healthy helping of luck here, of course, but there are usually things to do there. You don't always have a choice as what to do. If you can use both dice combinations, you should do that, even if something else is perhaps a better move right now, but it leaves you with a dice combo you can't use. You normally want to use them. You don't want to take the hit to your life total, right? So there's not always a great wealth of options, but there's always something you are trying to do, trying to accomplish a place you're trying to get to, and that keeps you engaged, even when the game goes a little bit long. So I liked that. Yes, it's a lucky game, of course. You're rolling dice galore. But it's generally engaging, especially if you don't mind downtime in games. If you're not a gamer who is particularly bothered by things moving slowly. If you are, this might get to you. It's kind of a slow-moving game. If you're not, I think you're not going to have too much of a problem. For me, I find I preferred with 2 because it's a little bit quicker for the 2 players to sort of make up their mind as to what they're doing and then pass the dice, roll, check, pass them back. It's just back and forth. With more, especially if some of the players are going to be having moments of analysis paralysis at different points in the game, it could slow down. So there you go. I feel like I'm coming down on the game quite a bit. But I do like it. I've enjoyed my plays of it. The first one was a little rough, my first play of it. Then I settled into what the game was, accepted what it was, and it kept getting better for me. So, yeah, this is a neat one. I do enjoy it. It's one, again, I would recommend if you are looking forward to sitting down with maybe a nice cup of tea, playing for a while without the pressures of there's another stack of games we're trying to get through today because it's game day. If that's not what you're going into, if you're not going into it with that sort of mindset and expectation, I think you're going to have a good time. So for me, this one's going to squeak into a 7 out of 10. So it's going to get a seal of approval. And the main reason for that being, even though I have a few problems with the cadence of the game and some of the visual acuity of the game, I keep having fun with it. I'm enjoying it, you know? So, yeah, 7 out of 10. So there you go, everybody. That is terribly titled Dungeons, Dice, and Danger. My name is Z Garcia. Thanks very much for checking this out. I'll see you on the next one.